You've seen the headlines. First, the city was dead, and now apparently San Francisco is dripping in gold. Somewhere between those two extremes, I think lies the real story. I feel like the press doesn't want to write about anything unless it's here or here. But the real story is worth paying attention to. The real estate market in San Francisco has seen some real spikes in demand lately and in pricing. You might be wondering, who is moving to San Francisco right now? Well, it turns out it's quite a few people, and they may not be who you're thinking. I'm seeing three major buyer types driving demand right now, and that is causing a San Francisco comeback. And they're really shaping the market in a lot of different ways. From AI founders who literally get their rent paid by companies, to parents stepping in to help their kids stop throwing away $5,000 a month in rent, to empty nesters who finally get to live life on their own terms. Today, I'm going to break down for you what I'm seeing on the ground as we, the Krishnan team, are navigating our biggest year in real estate yet, with 16 years in the business. I'm Ruth Krishnan. I'm founder of the Krishnan team, and this year alone, my team and I have ratified over 100 houses for over $2 million in sales, making it, as I mentioned, drum roll please, our biggest year ever. It's through this experience that we can really see from the trenches what's going on and bring to you, my lovely YouTube watchers, all of the inside scoop. I'm hoping that will also lead you to reaching out to me sometime so we can help you buy or sell. Regardless, we're gonna be back here every Monday at 5 p.m. with more videos like this. So what's happening? Rents are back up in double digits this year. So one bedrooms jumped 10% from last year. I've heard some people on the ground say 20%. I don't know. They are definitely up. And I was reading an article in the New York Times the other day that was saying that there are literally lines out the door for rentals. I don't do rentals for a living, so let me know in the comments below if you've been part of this madness. Like, what are you seeing? The Times article was saying that people have envelopes full of cash, kind of sight unseen. I don't know if that is just like an exaggerated story or what, but do let me know. Believe it or not, that frenzy is pushing people to buy, and not necessarily because it's making financial sense, but because they need a place to live. What the buyers are telling me that are calling, there's not a lot of great things to rent. I'll get into it in a bit, but first, let me answer your questions that are on your minds about who are these people moving to San Francisco, and is it a place even worth coming to? So let's start with buyer number one. I told you there were three, so this is not going to surprise you. I think the next two will, so hang in there with me. Buyer number one is, get this, AI people, founders, engineers, researchers. Let's face it, this is the Bay Area, and we have a ton of talent in tech for people who already live here. So they don't necessarily need to move here to get a job in AI, but there's over 51,000 new AI jobs that are projected for San Francisco in 2025. So companies like OpenAI, Anthropic, xAI, and dozens, if not hundreds, of smaller startups. These companies are quickly snapping up all the office spaces that were sitting there vacant forever in South Beach, Mission Bay, and Dogpatch. The reality is that if you're in tech, there's one thing that has become abundantly clear. There is no better place. You guys can argue with me all you want, but there is no better place to be than the Bay Area. Sure, I get it. You can get a really big house in Texas. You can skip taxes in Nevada, and you can go to Seattle, and maybe you're still close enough to fly back through the rain. But if you moved there, and I am hearing from a lot of you who did, it's time to come home. And many of you are coming back. So you know that saying, it's an old one, but proximity is power. I think for San Francisco, that's the proof. That's a big reason why people want to be here. It's not just the home of like big firms like Apple or Meta. The companies are moving in and they are scaling so fast. There are so many people who want to be around them and be part of those conversations and join them. There was over 145 billion with a B that was poured into United States startups in the first half of 2025 alone, and nearly 800 AI startups have risen up in the Bay Area for, guess what, y'all? More than half of that money, $80 billion. And oh my gosh, I can't remember where I read this, but I read an article the other day that Cluely, I had never heard of Cluely. Apparently they're like a tracking AI software company. They literally leased an 8-unit luxury building, I think in Hayes Valley, and they are offering condos to their employees, which I think are fewer than 10. Maybe I'm wrong. That's what I'm remembering. It's not a lot of people, and they raised an enormous amount of money as well. There was another company that I was reading about that's offering $1,000 a month in rent stipends if you live within walking distance of the office. And so I have to say, by San Francisco standards, like I'm used to, and I have never had this. I do not work in tech, never worked in tech. But, you know, I hear all of my clients and maybe my husband talking about the catered lunches at Google, and, you know, they have masseuses that come in and massage them, and then there's the game rooms, and geez Louise, it sounds really, really great to work in one of these big tech companies, but I have never heard of free apartments for rent. This is an absolute first for me. So with regard to the live-in places, I have seen in the last 12 months, not luxury style living, but I was showing a house in the Richmond last year, and I've seen this a couple of times. I go in to show the house, it's off market to my buyers, and I kid you not, it is a frat house. The whole first floor was nothing but a bunch of computers and desks, and then there was the kitchen. And then when you went upstairs to the bedrooms, there was I think 3 or 4 bedrooms upstairs, and there was sheets that would go, you know, kind of like a hospital room between the beds, and there were like multiple beds in the room. So these young guys, I can't remember if it was all women or all men or if there was a mix in there, but these young people were sleeping in there and working downstairs. And I guess at some point the seller wanted to sell the home for the right amount of money, but I think they were paying a really good rent. Now, whether or not this is legal by zoning, I would say no, but it's definitely happening, and I've seen it more than once, and I've heard about it multiple times. I have seen 2 types of AI buyers, and I'm not saying I've seen everything, but there's the one that just cashed in their golden lottery ticket, and they've been there for a minute, right? Like a few years, maybe even as long as 4 years. And they are selling millions of shares on the secondary market, and they are ready to buy, but they've been in San Francisco already. Most of them are renters, but they are moving up into homes. Sometimes single family homes, sometimes condos. As far as the OpenAI buyers that we've worked with so far, the budgets, they have not been crazy. They've been between like $2.5 and $5 million. I'm sure that's about to change because I don't have anyone, though I would love some, right this second post the October big $10 billion secondary stock sell-off options, whatever that is, like you can sell them. Then we have people moving to San Francisco for AI. We've actually had several of you all reach out to us on YouTube who are relocating from out of state or out of the area because they want to be here for it, or they're taking a new job for it. I mean, of course you want to come here because how else do you learn about all the idiosyncrasies about buying? I can't speak for the full market, but we've only sold like a handful, like not even a handful, like a few homes to buyers like that. So that's not the majority of what we're seeing. The majority of what we're seeing in the OpenAI space is already here. What I'm hearing in the news is that people are coming for AI. I personally have not seen as much of that on the ground. I'm just hearing about it. Oh, I did though. My rental agent, I have somebody who handles a property that I own in DuBose Triangle, and she did tell me that like the applications are through the roof, and she said the majority of them are AI. So that's in the renting side of things. And I could see where if you're coming here, you're not sure what you want to buy, you want to rent first, that makes sense. Hopefully you can find a rental. Most of our viewers though, they actually live here in San Francisco, sometimes even for decades. San Francisco, the neighborhoods are really, really nuanced. So even you can live here your whole life and not have gone to some of the neighborhoods, if you can believe that. My team and I did talk to a buyer the other day from Colorado, and he was saying that he wanted to move here to rent because he didn't know the area, but he got so frustrated with the rental process that he thought it might be easier to buy, which is part of what led me to think about having this video. Here's the thing. Buying can be easier, but it depends on what you want to buy. If you want to buy a condo in a high rise, at this present moment, there are deals to be had. But if you're buying a single family home, it's honestly probably not any easier than renting. And when you do the math, and I did a whole video on rent versus buy because I was getting so many calls about that and how it breaks down. And buying is, guess what? It is not the cheapest option, but you may decide that you want to buy because you want control of your house and your neighborhood, or you want to be close to work and you can't find what you're looking for, or you just for psychological reasons you want to buy. Or more importantly, you want to buy someday, and this is what I'm hearing from a lot of buyers is like, well, I know I want to buy someday, and I'm worried I'm going to get priced out of the market when it's moving up so quickly. So that can be another reason to buy. So buying something may not make the most sense when comparing it to the S&P 500, which is what I went in depth on in my other video. But if you do want to own something at some point for other reasons and you can afford it, then it might be worth considering doing it sooner rather than later because there's still real estate on sale. And I'm going to get to that in a minute. So where are all of these infamous AI buyers buying? I think if you work in AI, there's some pretty obvious choices for where to live. And we did a whole video on that too, breaking down neighborhoods where they're really close based on proximity to the AI companies. And I'll give you the quick TLDR on that. It's Mission Bay, South Beach, Dog Patch, Potrero Hill, Bernal Heights, North Beach, downtown. But the reality is San Francisco is just not that big. And though in those areas you could walk to work or get there a lot more quickly, I find that with the buyers that I work with, many of them are looking citywide or in large, like southwest side of the city. Like they're kind of cutting the city into like, say, half or quarters. And so proximity to work is one factor, but I think there's a lot of other factors, and it honestly depends on the buyer. Some of our buyers want to have a certain kind of inventory, which you're not necessarily going to get downtown where there's high rises and condo living. Maybe you want a certain size single family home that you can't find. I mean, in Potrero Hill, there are some single family homes, but the big ones are fewer and farther between, and even less so in Dog Patch where there's not many single family homes. Or maybe they want to be close to a very particular walkable street. We're not really, in reality, though I did the video, we're not seeing AI buyers concentrated on just one area. We may see that with some of the people who are moving in and don't know San Francisco well, but as I mentioned, I'm not seeing a ton of that myself yet, so I don't know everything. It does make sense to me that we would see that. And so I do think that there's a good chance that we start to see even more appreciation in those areas. And if you haven't read this headline, condos have actually seen a 9% appreciation this year alone, which that's a big jump for us in the condo market when they've been either holding still or going down for many years, basically since COVID. So nonetheless, though, we are still seeing condos trade at 2015 to 2018 prices. Not always, it depends. Everything is very specific depending on the inventory, but they're trading now higher than they would have even a few months ago. I have one right now that my seller pulled off the market in September, and things were going well over there, but he heard about the secondary stock sell-off that was going to happen in October, and he just said, Ruth, get it off the market now. I want to wait. And I'm in the process of negotiating, but it looks like we are going to do substantially better than we would have in September just a month and a half ago. So that was a really good bet on his part. Even with that said, though, he bought that condo for $1.7 million 11 years ago. And, I think that we'll see where it sells, but we'll probably sell it $100,000, $200,000 more than he bought it for 11 years ago. So it is still a really, really good opportunity, like to buy at the lower end of the trough for that particular kind of inventory. Also, I was blown away. My team told me they were involved in a multiple offer situation in Soma the other day, and I have not heard about a multiple offer in Soma since before COVID. 3/4 of the inventory is condo inventory, which is gonna mean that it's always gonna be easier to buy condos, mostly always is, but it should be easier to buy condos as a general statement than single family homes. So I think what you could expect with buying a condo is that, I mean, we've sold many as the only offer. We have sold many with a few offers, and we have sold some, depending on the part of town and the product, with multiple offers, meaning, 3, 4, 5 versus single family homes. Sometimes we're seeing 10, 12, 15 offers. I mean, there was a single family home. Oh my gosh. There was a single family home the other day on Cherry Street, and I had a client reach out to me. They were like, what do you think this will go for? And I'm just looking on my phone. Okay, it's Presidio Heights. Nothing, it was listed at 3. Nothing ever sells for that. I think the median price there is something like $8 million, maybe 9. So I'm like, okay, it's hard to get in. There's going to be competition on this. And, so at the time I thought, well, maybe it'll have a 4 in front of it, just based on a price per square foot basis. They're not active buyers. They're just kind of aspirational buyers right this second, just kind of gently monitoring inventory now and then. If something piques their interest, they reach out, but want to be active later. But this caught their attention. So I went ahead. They didn't even bother to see it because they didn't even want to spend that much. But I decided to pop over and see it on Tuesday at tour. And I walked through it and I was thinking to myself, well, there's no garage. This has not been updated in 40, 50, I don't know, maybe 100 years, like a long time. The updates were very, very old. A lot of original things like knob and tube. I think they said the roof was older. And the living room was very, very small and could not be enlarged. And then upstairs, there was 3 bedrooms, 1 bath. There was room to add another one. So I got back to my buyers, was like, actually, maybe this is a 3.5. And they still were, not interested in the home. They thought it was too high. Well, apparently it's in contract for either $4.6 or $4.8 million. I'm just I didn't dive into the comps thoroughly, but every agent in town that I've spoken to about it is just going, wow, okay, the market really is moving. But that's a single family home situation. I think they got something like 15 offers on that house. Anyway, I digress. That wasn't something I was going to talk about, but the reality is for condos, it may be easier than renting. You tell me what you're experiencing out there. I'm dying to know. So buyer number 3, I'm gonna call the bank of mom and dad, which means that you're getting some money from family. It might be mom and dad, it might be grandma, it might be your aunt. The great transfer of wealth, which is one of the largest generational transfers of wealth, is really well underway, and we are seeing it. And we've always seen outside money help in San Francisco, but we are seeing it much more than ever before. It is estimated that between 80 and 100, now this is trillion with a T, of wealth is going to be transferred from older to younger generations over the next 2 decades. It is definitely happening in San Francisco. Now, if you're from a family like this, and I feel like in my line of work, I feel like it's every day, but it's not for all of us. Congratulations. You are also a lottery winner. I would say that more than half of my clients are getting help from someone in their family. And this is sometimes kids right out of college, but sometimes this is 30 or even 40 something full-grown adults with their families wanting to help them achieve buying a bigger house or their forever home. It's hard in the Bay Area. So I currently have a grandparent who is buying a home this is a first for me, for her grandson who wants to move out here. He's an attorney. And she told me she'd rather spend the money while she's alive and see him enjoy it than when she's gone. For parents, I think sometimes, I see this even with kids that are in school. We have parents who are watching their kids pay $4,000 a month for a 1-bedroom apartment. And they're thinking, gosh, we're sitting on all this cash or equity and we don't even know what to do with it. we can't spend it all. So why not help them get a leg up? And I think sometimes it feels like, oh, and we also could we could have another investment, or we could diversify at the same time. So in some cases, they are helping with massive down payments, or in other cases, they're just buying the homes outright. They're basically practical people. They don't want their kids wasting their money. So it's kind of an emotional thing. And I think they really want to give, their kids or grandkids a stable home. It's a chance for them to start building equity as well. A lot of times these family members are paying rent back to the bank of mom and dad. I've seen that happen a lot. And these buyers that I'm seeing, they range. There's not one neighborhood where they want to live. It's across all neighborhoods, it's across all price points. And most of the families that are helping younger buyers, they want to know that the building's in good condition. They want to be sure that the neighborhood feels right for them. So it becomes this combination of what the kids want, which sometimes is like a really artsy, cool loft, and what the parents want, which is sometimes a brand new single family home. There's always a bit of a negotiation. I see a wide range of inventory and neighborhoods there. There is one thing I want to tell you that can be really difficult for out-of-state families to understand, and that is that the vast majority of our inventory is 100 years old. And it often comes with things like knob and tube. That's a wiring that's a little bit less safe than Romex wiring, if you don't know. So a lot of times people are like, what's knob and tube? Older roofs, older windows, brick foundations, asbestos, lead. We have all kinds of things in our inventory. And some of these people coming from the suburbs of Texas are a little caught off guard by what's in these houses, especially when they're so expensive. So that can be a lot for people to get their heads around, especially if they're trying to help from a distance. So here's a tip. I find that most of my successful buyers in this category, they gift the money in some way, even if it's just psychologically, to the person who is going to be living in the home, and they let them get some practice being an adult. So one of my very favorite buyers in this category, her parents, they wouldn't even meet with me, which was actually uncomfortable for me a bit. They didn't want to talk to me. They didn't want to be involved in the search at all. Their name was on the contract, so they were paying the full mortgage and they wanted their daughter to rent to own. But when I asked them, if we could talk, or, can we talk during the negotiation? They just told me, we are giving our child freedom with responsibility, and these are her decisions to make, and, she's going to do great. And I thought to myself, wow, that's really, really great that was given. So that is the best way. I mean, a lot of times when it's a down payment, it is gift money. And so that is also like the parents are not involved. But if you want to be involved in a decision that you're not here on the ground for, but the person buying is seeing like 20, 30 homes in person, walking through those homes, reading multiple disclosure packages, really understanding their budget and what it can get them, and understanding those compromises. And then you want to pop in at the end during the negotiation when things get really heated and be like, oh no, we're not doing that. Let's find you something that doesn't have all these problems. It's very hard to put together a transaction like that. So as painful as it is, I'd recommend placing the person who's going to live in the house in the driver's seat and trusting them to make a good decision. Otherwise, it may not ever happen, because it's a very hard thing to get your head around from somewhere else. After all, how do we teach our kids to fly? We have to let them grow wings. Easier said than done. My oldest is 16, so I haven't quite had to do that just yet. Okay, so we're down to number 3. And the last one is empty nesters. So maybe your kids are off to college, or maybe you've never had kids, but you're finally at that stage of life where you're just ready to live life on your own terms. And the funny thing is that this buyer and the other buyer are the same buyer, but they're looking at different things and they're looking at it through a completely different lens. So sometimes often these buyers are coming from local places like Walnut Creek. We have one right now making an offer on one of our listings that's from Palo Alto. We've sold places to people from Woodside, Marin. I once helped someone buy a place on the beach because they wanted a beach house and they worked downtown, but their main house was in Marin. Other times they're coming from out of state, and the data backs this up. I was reading that San Francisco's 65 plus population grew 8.7% from 2020 to 2023. It's projected to rise another 38% by 2030. So a lot of them pied-à-terres in the city, but I've also sold huge second homes, third homes, fourth homes in the tens of millions of dollars to couples who want a big enough home that they can either host grown-up kids when they come back with maybe their spouses or girlfriends, or host other families from out of town. Many of the buyers in this category, they're looking for neighborhoods that everybody has heard of. So you name them, go. Pacific Heights, Presidio Heights. They want a neighborhood where there's good weather, there's good walkability, and maybe a little bit of cachet sprinkled in. On the flip side of this, we see that some parents, and maybe this might be me someday, they have children who are moving here for jobs as well. So maybe part of that first category, and they are coming with them. Or they have a children that seems like they're settling down. Maybe they're having their first grandchild and they want to be able to be close to help out. So in those cases, it's fair game on the neighborhood because they usually want to be really close to their kids and they want to be able to walk in some cases next door, ideally, or around the block. I recently worked with a buyer and I've worked with them on multiple transactions, but they have a home in Coal Valley and they bought a house for their parents, for one of the parents. They wanted to be really, really close by so their kids could just walk around the block really safely to grandma and grandpa's house and just kind of do the back and forth. We actually joked because their house is kind of up the hill one block over, and we joked about adding a zip line from one house to the other. So anyway, they were able to make that happen, which was super fun to work with them on. I'm sorry to talk about all the videos that I've done, but I recently did do a video on this topic because the AARP ranked San Francisco as one of the best cities to age in for a lot of reasons, from walkability to accessibility to weather to a sense of community. And, I'd say the numbers that we're seeing in population growth is really backing up that this is an age group that is heavily investing in San Francisco and believes that San Francisco is a fantastic place to live. So what is the takeaway? San Francisco is not dead. It actually was never dead, but it's different. And people are moving here right now with a lot of intentionality. There are builders, backers, and believers, whether it's young AI talent wanting to be part of the next wave, or it's parents who are investing in their kids' future, or boomers who are rewriting what retirement looks like. They all share one thing in common, that San Francisco is amazing and there's a lot of opportunity here. So for anyone thinking about buying, here's what I'm seeing. Condos are still trading at somewhere between, it depends, 2015 to 2018 prices in some pockets. Inventory is very tight, but it is not gone. And many neighborhoods that I've been telling you about for the last year, I've been telling you that are on sale are seeing signs of the sale being over. A few of these neighborhoods that I've been talking about, Bernal Heights and the Richmond, they're both seeing signs of starting to come back. And the Mission is another one that I'm not quite yet seeing, but I really think that we will. Robert Refkin, who's our CEO of Compass, he said recently that he thinks the best deal in US real estate right now is a condo in San Francisco. And I do definitely agree. So we talked a lot about who's moving here. And I know there's still a lot of you out there because, oh my gosh, sometimes I'm like, why are you guys watching these videos if you hate San Francisco so much? but you feel like the city is a dump where criminals can run free and drugs are dealt on every corner and there's feces all over all of the sidewalks and the streets are lined with tents full of unhoused people. And I'll tell you, I know many of you do not know me. You probably think I'm just here to make a quick buck and I can just lie my butt off so I can sell you a house. And I totally get that. Trust needs to be earned, and you don't know me, so I'm not going to take offense. But the truth is, I always tell my team, we don't sell houses. We help people buy the houses that they want to get. We don't ever talk someone into buying a home. And often it means that we talk people out of as many houses as we sell along the way. If all we cared about was making a quick buck, we would do business very, very, very differently. In any case, for whatever it's worth, if you're still here, here's my experience with San Francisco. We do still have an unhoused problem, and it is complicated. I don't think anyone, when you ask like, what is the answer to this? How do we fix it? I don't think anyone really knows, but we do know what we have been doing has not really been working. The political climate has definitely taken a big turn. And I think that most people who live in the city, if you talk to them, they recognize that what we've done in recent years has not worked and they are ready for a change. So we have a new mayor in town, Daniel Laurie, and I think that's a huge case in point. He's not a Republican, but he is considered a centrist. And for San Francisco, that's a really big deal. He really ran on a platform of doing things differently. And everyone I know is very happy with him. And he's made some very big changes. I highly recommend his Instagram page. It's awesome. I love seeing what he's out doing. He's always out there like in it. He's like down in the Tenderloin. He is in it. I ran into him at a charity event for raising money for San Francisco schools. I've seen him down here in the Noe Valley Market. I love seeing what he's doing. When I've talked to people who work in the city that were super, super skeptical of him, they say that they really like him and they really see change. I haven't met anyone that has a bad word to say about him. So even the Board of Supervisors, I think the majority is now centered. And so I think a lot of the people that were elected in, they're less on the full ideological side and more on the like, let's fix this shit and get things done. We want a great, beautiful city. It does not mean that San Francisco has lost its heart. The people who live here, they really, really do care about doing the right thing and taking care of others. They want to live in a city that they feel is clean and that they feel good about. Is it fixed? Nope. It probably will never be perfect, right? I don't think San Francisco, like it's a city, you guys. And it's not going to be perfectly polished. No city is perfectly polished. I don't care what anyone says. There are certain parts of it that probably will, I don't know, never get all of the way better. San Francisco's always had some grit. I mean, I haven't been here always, but that's what I've heard. But I truly, truly believe it's one of the best cities in the world. The other day, I was trying to remember the name of it. I cannot remember, but my husband took me out to dinner at this place on 8th and Mission. This is like such a San Francisco thing. We came and everything was about a bedtime story. And so the chefs were coming out and there was like, the first meal was like out of a backpack and you unpacked it and there was a soundtrack that went with the thing. And then they moved you to another room that was full of pillows and it was crazy. The food was pretty good, but it was definitely like an entertainment dinner. But that's a rough area of town by any measure. And so we were down there and then we walked over to grab a drink at Prospect Hotel, which is, you know, you're walking through an area where a lot of times you're gonna run into various nightlife. I have to say, we walked over there and generally that BART station right there on Market, and I think it's 8th or 7th, it's usually just teeming with just all kinds of nefariousness. And, you know, you feel like, okay, I need to have my wits about me. And it was empty and it was clean. I was like, what is going on? That is not the area of San Francisco that I would expect to have seen or experienced that at that time of night. This was like 10:30 or 11 o'clock p.m. It was amazing. You know, I don't work downtown. I'm selling a place down at 181 right now. So I've been down there quite a bit. That area is always like very, very buttoned up. All of my friends and my clients that work downtown, and work in the financial district, they're saying the same thing. Like, it's really nice down here. The TLDR of what I love is the innovation and spirit. I'm just going to tell you 3 things that I love and 3 things that I don't love. So innovation and spirit, I love. I feel like this is a place where you can be anything and do anything, and I am proof. I am from a small town in Missouri. I grew up with nothing, and I came here and I created the life of my dreams. And I could not feel more blessed or more gratitude around what San Francisco has given to me and my family. And I will forever love San Francisco for that. And just that like American dream, right? Of creating something, being something, doing whatever you want. I feel like that really is ingrained in people here, and I love that. I also, on a more shallow level, I love the views. I love the natural beauty. I have a view of the ocean out of my home, and I cannot believe I get to see it every day. I take a hike, I look at it, like I love it. I love, love, love the ocean. But just even walking around the city, I dropped my kid off to school the other day in the Mission, and then I took a walk all through Noe Valley and around Dolores Park, and I'm looking at the architecture and I'm looking at the city, and I'm just thinking, what an amazing place to be. It's like a living piece of art. So I love that. And you can drive out and see more beauty and different beauty, which is the 3rd thing that I love. I love the proximity to other things. I have a place also, huge gratitude, up in Tahoe, and going up and being in the snow and being able to snowboard down the mountain and then come back to a place where it's, 68 degrees and, totally different, or driving up to wine country and having a day in wine country, or driving down to Big Sur. There's just there are places in close proximity where you can take a mini vacation for a weekend that you don't have to wait for a week off work to go and experience life and experiencing something truly special, that people come from all over the world to go to any of those places. So I love that. What don't I love? The schools. They are hard to navigate. We have a lottery system here, and I feel like it's a lot more complicated than it needs to be. And the fact that everybody's driving across different parts of the city to get to school, I think doesn't make for the best quality of life. I think there's reasons behind it in terms of creating, diversity and socioeconomic diversity and all of these things. But honestly, I wish that we had a place where your kids could just walk to school and have that quality of life, but that is not what we have. And so it feels laborious, it feels unnecessary. There are private options, which my kids are in private school, and that has a whole nother host of headaches as well, with the application processes, and the fees for those schools are just astronomical. I mean, the first time I ever in 20 years thought about moving out of San Francisco was getting my first child, my oldest child, into high school. I just was like, I am done. This is ridiculous. We made it through, and now we're doing it again for my second. And it's not, maybe it was partially me and my mindset, because it's not as bad the second time, though he's not yet in anywhere. So we'll see how that goes. But that's my number 1 beef. My number 2 beef is I feel like things are always a little bit more complicated and a little bit more crowded than I would like. To be fair, this is a city, but I feel like it's gotten worse over the years. And I mean, I guess part of it is being in a place that has cool things and everybody wants to go to. But I feel that it makes it hard, and maybe this is a me problem, but it feels like it makes it hard to be spontaneous. If you want to do something, you need tickets, you need to have booked it in advance. Not everything. There's a lot of, simple pleasures, but we're talking about the downsides right now. But when I go up to Tahoe and I spend time there in the summer, and I'm like, oh, I can just come down here and play bocce ball without a reservation, or, just pop into the pool. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's just easier. And maybe part of that is because I grew up in the Midwest. I was hunting for crawdads and catching frogs in the creek, and it was just a very, very different life. So maybe part of that is something missing that I had that now life feels very, very different. So that's number 2. Number 3, it took me a minute to think of, but number 3 is that I feel like you have to make a very intentional choice not to get too caught up in the rat race. And for me, that has been especially true having children. I love, and I mentioned this earlier, being around driver A-type people. I am definitely one myself, and I love that environment. But I think possibly when you get too many of those people together in the same space, it creates a dynamic where it can get a little out of control. Just as an example, when I was pregnant, there were several other moms I knew that was pregnant, and they started sharing like spreadsheets with me where, I kid you not, like 7 months pregnant, they're signing their kids up for sign language classes so they can learn. I'm like, oh my God, like what is happening? So I have definitely gotten caught up in some of that stuff, not that one. You know, when you're around that, sometimes you feel like something's wrong with you if you don't have your kid scheduled into violin and extra math lessons and extra Spanish lessons and all of these things. And, you know, I think it creates like you have to find some like-minded people that make you not feel crazy or make you not feel different, and maybe just have some real focused time with yourself on what, I mean, everybody's different. For some families, that's what they want. For us, we've really tried not to overly do that and probably not done the best job being on this end of the spectrum, but we do our best, and that's all we can do as parents. Whether you're thinking about moving here or you're helping your kids get started or you're downsizing for the next chapter, the city really does have a lot to offer. And if you want help figuring out where you fit in, my team and I have helped over 1,000 families buy and sell in San Francisco. Reach out anytime with any of the ways below. We'd love to help you find your place here. And if you want to watch a video breaking down on where to live, if you want to be in close proximity to all of the AI stuff, check out this video right here.